We are live. And if you think I'm at a dance party, well, you're not too far off in that thinking. It's Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Honda, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. Mace, I'm jealous because you were at OTAs today. Some may be jealous because I'm sitting at a pool cabana in Las Vegas at Circa Resort and Casino. I'll show you a little flash of where I'm at. That's a 2-story video screen right there.
Oh, that's the stadium swim thing?
Stadium swim, yes. That's where I'm at. And I'm here to talk about what you saw at OTAs. But first, Mace, they signed Frank Clark today. We got some big edge news for the Denver Broncos. They signed Frank Clark. Baron Browning had meniscus surgery. What do you know about this situation?
Well, I mean, it's hard not to connect the two, right? And of course, the other connective thing to what you and I have discussed in recent weeks is the cap room they've created by cutting Jacob Martin, cutting Brandon McManus. I mean, you knew it was for something. And here it is. Now, with the edge rushers, I'll admit, I wrote a piece on edge rushers earlier this week at denversports.com. I didn't include Frank Clark, and I'll be honest, I didn't include Frank Clark because there are a lot of issues with Frank Clark. There's pretty lengthy police blotter with Frank Clark. There's a domestic violence incident back at Michigan, which I believe was eventually resulted in a plea down to a lesser charge, but he was still thrown off the University of Michigan team, which hung over him as he went into the draft process, and Seattle ended up picking him. There was a weapons charge that he had 2 years ago in Los Angeles that resulted in him making a no contest plea and getting some community service and paying a fine as well. And so there are things on Frank Clark that I think maybe give you pause when in terms of beyond the football. Within football, still an effective edge rusher. I mean, this is not a guy who's going to explode for a 14 or 15 sack type of season, but he's still pretty effective heading into his what I believe will be his 9th season in the NFL. He spent 4 in Seattle, 4 in Kansas City. And Broncos get him for $5.5 million base, and then $2 million more in incentives. $1 million pretty easily achievable. The $2 million in incentives unlikely to be achieved. So you feel a little bit better, but I don't know if you're making this move if Baron Browning didn't just have surgery, Cease.
Yeah, I don't think you're making the move if Baron Browning didn't have surgery. And, well, not to pile another one on, but Frank Clark also had an incident with a media member, my friend Natalie Weiner, in Seattle. So, yeah, I can't say I'm the biggest Frank Clark fan. We'll say that.
Yeah, this is, I mean, if we're going by character here, this isn't the pickup, but it is what it is. The Broncos edge rusher complement looks better today than it did the day before. I mean, you were put it this way. We were all concerned about Randy Gregory, right? Okay, can you rely on him? Someone who's had injuries in each season of his career so far. He's been on IR each of the last 2 seasons. Well, now you got somebody else in there who's experienced. Baron Browning's had some injuries as well, even before this recent meniscus surgery, and he is expected back for training camp. It certainly does explain why we haven't seen him out there at OTAs in recent weeks now. I mean, that's something that we all noticed, and now we have our answer in the meniscus surgery that he had. So but now you start looking at that room and you say, okay, you've got Frank Clark, you got Randy Gregory, you've got Baron Browning, you have Jonathan Cooper, and you have Nick Benito. So you and I have been talking about a Thomas Incoom or a Christopher Allen making the 53.
Right.
If everybody stays healthy, I don't know that they keep 6 edges there. And I feel pretty confident that all of those 5 that I mentioned, including Cooper and Benito, are going to be on the 53 when it's done. And I mean, and Jonathan Cooper, I mean, we can't really get into details, but let's just say Jonathan Cooper's looked pretty good out there. And
yes.
I spoke with Joseph Jewell today about about Coop, and he noted Coop's progress as well. So I think he's going to be on the 53 when all is said and done. And I think Nick Bonito, based on his draft status and also the fact that you can use him very specifically as a situational pass rusher, play to his strengths. I think he's going to be on the roster there as well. And so basically, there's your 5 edges.
Yeah, and the way I've said it, Mace, since we can't say what we want to say, I would say this. Jonathan Cooper may take that jump that we expect Baron Browning to. That may actually be Cooper, in my eyes, my opinion. And then also, in my opinion, it's a little early to write off Nick Bonito. Maybe pencil if you want to. Not pin, not at all. Draft status, they're going to give him another shot.
Yeah.
We'll see if he can develop. Sometimes it just takes time for these players.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, Coop is a year ahead of Nick Bonito, and he's better at setting the edge. And those are things that are going to help him. But certainly, I think Coop has taken advantage of the situation with Baron Browning dealing with a meniscus injury, and so that's going to help him because hey, everyone's proving themselves to new coaches, new staff, new sets of eyes, and I have to think that. They like what they've seen in Coop so far this offseason.
Yeah, they like what they see, and Broncos fans like what they hear, Mace, when Adam Schefter reports that the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos could be the 2 front runners for running back Dalvin Cook, now finally released by the Minnesota Vikings. So as we transition to the next story, like, okay, they signed Frank Clark. Will they sign Dalvin Cook now?
Big question. Because if you look at the finances here, you've got Frank Clark, $5.5 million base. Broncos came into today, according to the NFLPA salary cap report, with a little under $7.5 million of cap space. Now, of course, they've got their rookies done, and we know at the top 51 figure as it is in the offseason. But if they're going to get Dalvin Cook in, unless we're talking about a real bargain price, and I don't think that's going to end up being the case, especially with multiple bidders potentially in on Dalvin Cook. There's probably another move or two coming to create the space that you would need to bring in Dalvin Cook. So that's something to keep your eye on. I imagine it would be a restructure more than them moving on from a player.
Right.
But right now, you put that Frank Clark contract in there, and it is a straight up a 1-year deal. Because it's a 1-year deal, that's kind of locking you into that $5.5 million guaranteed under this year's cap. So they're going to have a little bit of work if they want to get Dalvin Cook in. I'm sure they can do it. I mean, the cap is very manageable and can be manipulated, but you have to go about the process of doing that. So, so if they want Dalvin Cook, watch out for a restructure. Now the question becomes, does Dalvin Cook go back to his home state, or does he choose a fresh start? We shall see.
Yeah, and if you're Dalvin Cook, which would you rather? This seems like a morning show thing. Like, would you rather go back where you're from, play for a playoff contender with a ton of speed where you're one of multiple weapons, or would you rather go to a Super Bowl winning head coach with a GM that you know from Minnesota, and you're the centerpiece of the offense? Am I overstating it to say that if Dalvin Cook signs with the Broncos, he would be the centerpiece of their offense?
Well, I think he'd be sharing it with Javonte Williams because I think they have a lot of hope invested in Javonte. And I don't necessarily think that they want to kind of push Javonte off to the side. So I think he would be a co-centerpiece of the offense. But certainly, if you bring in Dalvin Cook, as if it isn't already evident, you're saying this team's going to run the ball first. Your run-pass ratio may look a lot like the Seattle run-pass ratio during most of Russell Wilson's time there. And we'll see how that settles with number 3.
Yeah, I think 3's in a spot where he's just going to do what he's told, and he's going to listen. And you want to rejuvenate your career, you want to do what we talked about yesterday, resurrecting your career. If you're Russell Wilson, listen, Linda. Listen, Russell Wilson.
Linda?
And I think that's what
Who's
he's going to do.
Linda?
Haven't you seen that meme of that little kid where he's like, listen, 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 Linda?
Oh no, I haven't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm like, what does Linda have to do with
I
it?
talk in movie quotes and memes, so I apologize. People
No,
want to
it's
see
okay.
the pool. I don't think people want to see me. They want to see the pool behind me.
How come you're not actually in the pool doing this right now?
I don't want to get electrocuted, but
Oh,
I
you got
thought
the
about it.
headset.
I thought about it because it's about 90 degrees here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's good to be at the pool. But it's good to be Dalvin Cook because you have options, you have choices. If a Dalvin Cook deal happens, Mace, it will take a restructure. Are we talking about a week? Are we talking about a couple of days? Are we talking about a month? What's the time frame here?
I mean, it depends. First of all, I think it depends when he actually hits the market because Minnesota hasn't cut him yet. So that's the first step is he's no longer a Minnesota Viking.
The release isn't official yet because I thought I read it was official now.
It may have gone official.
I think it happened when you were at OTAs. Because, see, when we go to OTAs now, people, just for everybody to know, you can't have your phone on. You can't look at your phone. You can't basically do anything that a normal human being today does. So I do believe it is official. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I'm in Vegas. You've been at OTAs.
The story is they plan to release Dalvin Cook.
It
has not happened yet.
Okay.
According to multiple reports, we are looking at the release happening Friday. So if you want to put your foot on the accelerator here, you can get it done and get him in for the mandatory mini camp coming up next week, which of course starts on Tuesday, goes through Thursday. The question then becomes, is it worthwhile to get it done? I mean, I don't think you're really worried about him being in for a mandatory minicamp. It's no big deal. But to kind of go over the cap space right now, Miami has $15.182 million of cap space as we speak. The Broncos have 7.95. So I was a little off. It's actually the Broncos have just under $2.5 million of space once they've accounted for Frank Clark's contract in terms of the base salary that's going to hit on this year, $5.5 million. And that's the guaranteed figure as well. So basically because of that, there's probably another move the Broncos are going to have to make in order to get this contract in. Miami could step in and say, okay, Dalvin, here's $10 million right now. They wouldn't have any corresponding moves they need to make. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'm sure the Broncos, if they want Dalvin Cook, if they really want to be in these sweepstakes, I'm sure they're working on the necessary moves to fit in what that contract would be for them. But we'll see. I mean, personally, Cecil, I don't think it's essential to get him in for next week. It'd be nice.
Right.
But if you don't get him in until training camp, oh well. So it goes.
Yeah, that's just kind of the way you do it. Now, Mace, you were out at OTAs today. I was in Las Vegas. I am jealous, though, because you got to talk to Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles said some stuff about Ben Powers. But in saying stuff about Ben Powers, is he actually also saying stuff about Dalton Reisner? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think he meant anything malicious in particular. But when Garrett Bowles gets up there, and I asked him specifically about Ben Powers, just how they're meshing together, because Powers is your left guard. He's working next to Bowles at left tackle. And he said, quote, it's nice to have a dog in my room. This group is special, especially him. I feel like just knowing where he's at, he's a true vet. He knows what he's going to do. I love him dearly. I think highly of him. We've got to know each other very, very, very well. We text each other, talk to each other all the time. I love him dearly. I'm excited to have a guy that's just all about ball, his image and the way he does things. It's all about family and football. That's the type of guy I want to be around, unquote. I mean, it's a lot of praise for Ben Powers, but okay, look at the Broncos offensive line, right? The starting offensive line for last year. Who's missing? Dalton Reisner, and somewhat Billy Turner. But Cam Fleming, I mean, he's back in there, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's kind of a spicy meatball here when you parse through this quote.
It's interesting after what Dalton was tasked with as a young player,
Yes.
basically telling Bowles what to do, and he was the rookie. There's some stuff that was said, like we put the rookie next to Bowles. I can't say exactly what was said, but like we put the rookie next to Bowles so that Dalton Reisner could help him out, and they always seem friendly. So it's interesting that Bowles would go above and beyond with that praise of Ben Powers.
Yeah, it was really fascinating. Now, granted, Garrett Bowles he's very much an in the moment type of guy. And also again, I don't think he's thinking in terms of ripping on Dalton Reisner.
That's not his way.
That's not Garrett Bowles. That's not who he is. But when we talk about this offensive line, when he's saying things like that, you start thinking, okay, what was missing last year from that line? And is this why there was no real interest in bringing Dalton Reisner back? And instead making Ben Powers, if not your number one free agent priority, right there. He was the first guy the Broncos signed when the legal tampering period began. So at the very least, he was a high priority, if not priority number one.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is telling that they looked at left guard and said, this is the position we want to address immediately and we need to invest in. Some of that is Sean Payton and how he emphasizes interior linemen more than most coaches do. He prizes them. There's a reason why the Saints often had one of the highest paid interior line groups in the NFL. There's a reason why they've had a lot of Pro Bowls and all pro selections from that area of the team over Peyton's 16 years there. But it adds another layer to what went wrong last year. Even adds another layer what we were talking about earlier this week in regards to Dalton Reisner still being out there on the market.
Right. It's intriguing, I guess we could say. It's interesting, and we're just kind of left to wonder what's happening or what had happened with Dalton Reisner. It's Orange and Blue Today, presented by Sean Ponda. I'm Cecil Lammey, and I am at Circa Las Vegas. Some people like the techno music, and I think everybody likes the pool, because I'm getting requests in the chat room to see the pool, Mace. So
that's a nice pool.
Part of the pool.
We're going to keep you in the shadows and we're going to focus on the pool. Is that what they want?
We'll give the people what they want. Circa Las Vegas is where you need to go for your fantasy draft party. Get this, you can go to circalasvegas.com. That's circalasvegas.com to enter to win a trip for you and the rest of your 12-person league to Las Vegas to have the ultimate fantasy football experience, including drafting from Stadium Swim. Right here. I'm doing a fantasy football draft tomorrow as part of the event here at Circa, so that'll be awesome. But Mace, I said I was jealous of you. I'm in Vegas. I'm jealous of you because you saw OTAs. What can you tell me and us?
All right. One thing that we can get into is the attention to detail. So we get out there and we're looking at practice. And within a few minutes, the Broncos are going into specific end of half, end of game situations, going over them to their finest detail, doing them repeatedly. And Sean Payton peppering this whole thing with instruction. And what Payton said is that in the building, Broncos headquarters at Sanctuary Health Training Center, they have a board listing 43 things that are unique end of game, end of half situations. They come up every so often. He says, hey, some of these only come up every couple of years. But one of the things that he said is that he's teaching them to the entire team, not just the players on the field running them. He said he wants the entire bench to recognize these situations and know what to do and have it down cold. Said that we're going to see some of this in training camp as well. That they're going to review these things a couple each day as they go through their practices. We've talked about how Sean Payton's practices are different. We've talked about the attention to detail. Here is a really big manifestation of it, working on these situations, and then you compare it to last year, for example, where certainly I don't feel like they were always making the most of the time that they had. That
No.
isn't the case this year.
No, not at all. So with Sean Payton talking about those 43 situations, he said some come up every 4 weeks, some come up every 2 years. So they're just going to be ready, babe. Be ready. And if you're all ready, then you already know. Mace, what else is on the allowable topics?
Let's see here. Caden Stearns had an interception today.
Okay, so we did talk about that. We have seen players in the secondary make plays, so that's a good thing. And Caden Stearns, we've talked about that logjam at safety. It's like, damn, they got some safeties now. Like, they've got depth, they've got talent, they've got veterans, they got a nice mix, which I think is what you want at all positions. But certainly at safety, the Broncos are set and then some.
Yeah, they're pretty confident there. And look, Kareem Jackson, remember, was a late re-signing. Didn't re-sign until March. And I think Kareem Jackson may well be the insurance plan. We'll see how things bear themselves out over training camp, who ends up getting used more. But I'd say that if you put a gun to George Payton's head, certainly as general manager, and said, who do you want to be the starting safety next to Justin Simmons? I think he would say Caden Stearns, as he's going into his third year. Now is the time that you're hoping he can take the leap and be ready for a more expansive role.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping. And you then wonder, okay, could Kareem be a late signing and then not even make the team? I mean, it's possible. I hope not. I like Kareem, but it's possible, especially at this point in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, though, you look around that safety room, you got Kareem Jackson, you got PJ Locke, and then you're down to De'Laren Turner-Yell. I think they would like
JL Skinner there.
JL Skinner as well. I think they would like one reserve who's got a reasonable level of experience, especially because Caden Stearns has dealt with some kind of in-season injury each of the last 4 seasons going back to his time at the University of Texas.
Yeah, he hasn't been healthy since he was a freshman at Texas, where he showed a lot of skill, and then he just kept getting hurt, and that's continued with him in the pros. So we'll see what the Broncos do there. Mace, we got about 5 minutes left, which some people are saying good because they can't stand the background music. But either way, what else can we talk about? I know nothing from today because y'all can't report anything, and I was watching Sean Payton's interview as I'm watching the scenic views, as Nate says here, at the pool.
Okay, well, it's funny, but to expand on the situations, Sean Payton said 43 of those situations they've gotten aboard. Cortland Sutton met the media later and said it was actually 75. And he's like, quote, I don't know where you got 43 from, unquote. And I'm thinking, we got it from your coach, dude.
Yeah.
You've got what else here? I'm just kind of going through some stuff. Okay.
How did Sutton feel?
What?
How did Sutton feel? What was his demeanor like today?
Oh, fine. It was fine. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
I asked Sean Payton about Jerry Jeudy, and I thought, he basically said he watched him coming out of college. He used the scouting term loose hips, quote, extremely loose hips. And then he said this, quote, there's the nuances of the game relative to landmarks, the exactness of the passing game. All those things he's been real eager to learn. And they said he enjoys working with him, and then added this, that he told Judy, quote, "Hey, I'm going to be on you, and we're going to get the most out of you." Pointed out that Jerry Jeudy is catching the ball with his pinkies together instead of his thumbs together.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting. Number one, Peyton pointing out that he's got to work on being a little bit more precise, like reflective to landmarks. So I think that's the sort of thing where you're saying, okay, he's got to make sure he's taking his cut at the exact spot. You know, they say like, okay, not 5 yards, not 6 yards, but 5.5 yards, right?
Right. And Jerry Jeudy can get open against anybody, but if his timing's off because he's dancing, that doesn't matter. And if he's at the incorrect depth, it doesn't matter.
Right. And then the other thing, like the saying, "I'm going to be on you." Well, this is, we always talk about, okay, watch where the coaches are. Watch who they're talking to, who they're exhorting a little bit to try to get the most out of. And, Jerry Jeudy is somebody, and the reason why I asked Sean Payton about Jerry Jeudy is you look around sometimes and you'll see Sean Payton talking to Jerry Jeudy. He clearly sees something big time in him, and he is looking to maximize that. One more thing on the receivers as well is I know we got the question earlier this week about can somebody be the Michael Thomas. Cortland Sutton says he is looking at Michael Thomas's all of his the times he was targeted back in 2019, watching the way he's running routes and getting open. So that's an interesting thing to keep your eye on as well.
And wasn't that the last time Michael Thomas was healthy?
Yeah, basically. And Sutton kind of mentioned it, like, the year he broke the record. I mean, the last time that he was healthy. So there you go. So the thing is, you've got Jerry Jeudy that's getting this on-point coaching from Sean Payton, who's clearly invested in him. This is why they picked up the fifth-year option. I imagine Sean Payton had something to do with Jeudy getting the fifth-year option. And then Cortland Sutton studying Michael Thomas. And still you have Tim Patrick trying to work his way back. But maybe this is going to be a heavy dose of Sutton and Jeudy, and maybe Tim Patrick takes on a lesser role as he comes back from that ACL. But there's a long ways to go. We're still about 3 months out from the start of the season. A lot can change.
It's orange and blue today, and as I go with boots and pants, I'll step outside, and I'll show you all the stadium swim area. If you can see it with me as I take a stroll, Mace. This is where I'm at.
Pool?
I haven't got in yet. I haven't dipped my toe yet, but I will. So We're going to get everything going here for the Golden Knights watch party that's coming up. But yeah, it goes way down there too. So look, we got more stuff back there. So yeah, it's all over the place.
How many pools are there?
I think there's like 8 pools here, something like that.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. So
there we go. A way to get down there last time I was in Vegas.
All right. Awesome. Last time you were in
like
Vegas,
we were at the watch the game.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been a little. Wait, do they keep the pool open in the winter? They close it, right? It gets kind of cool in Vegas in the wintertime.
It's actually open. You may not be in the water, but the pool is actually open. Stadium swim is open. So I'm going to watch. You're proud of me, Mace. I'm going to watch the Golden Knights game tonight with Mike Pritchard.
You're watching hockey.
Yes. In a swimming pool.
Good for you. Expand your horizons there, my friend.
All right.
There's a big world of sports out there beyond football.
All right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey. Until next time, be safe, be kind. Know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned. And would you all please just do this? How about you stay frosty?